The development and evolution of language. It is now generally accepted that communication among members of animal species is widespread and that most vertebrates transmit information by acoustic signals. Acoustic signals are noises that animals produce in response to a specific stimulus or situation, and that have a specific meaning, such as a wolf's howl or a cricket chirping. The variety and ingenuity of these communicative systems have stimulated a great deal of research in animal communication and its comparison with human speech. If we accept the single modern human species, Homo sapiens, as a very recent result of the evolution living organisms have undergone for more than a billion years, then we may also be likely to assume that human speech is the end result of a long, cumulative evolutionary process that shaped communicative behavior throughout the animal kingdom. But how this happened is not easy to discover. Communication and its channels. Communication among members of animal species is universal because it is important to their survival. It takes place whenever one organism receives a signal that has originated with another. In 1940s, the early but serviceable model of communication uses five components: the sender or source, the message, the channel, the receiver or destination, and the effect. These components take into account the entire process of transmitting information, namely, who is transmitting what by what means to whom and with what effect. The model, the model appears to be rather simple and straightforward, but because communication is by no means uniform, some discussion is in order. Although communication among members of any particular species is to be expected, interspecific communication, that is, transmission of signals between members of different species, is far from rare. For example, an experienced horseback rider transmits commands to a horse and expects that the horse will receive and follow these commands. The means of sending messages clearly vary and are not limited to sounds, as in speech, are visible signs, as in looks or hand gestures. Although these two channels or media selected for communication are the means humans most frequently enjoy. The most common and effective channel of human communication is the acoustic channel, used whenever people speak to each other as well as in so-called whistle speech. Writings, gestures, and pictorial signs make use of the optical channel relating to vision. Pictorial signs refer to any signs that you can see, such as a caution sign, no parking sign, stop sign, etc. Braille, a writing system for the blind that uses characters consisting of raised dots, is received by the sense of touch, the tactile channel. If you have been to BPI and seen or used their ATM machines, you can see that they have Braille in their ATM machines. Olfactory channel is chosen whenever one wishes to communicate by the sense of smell. People sometimes use room deodorizers before receiving guests and put perfume or deodorant on themselves whenever they expect to spend time with people in close proximity. The olfactory channel is especially important among social insects, which do much for their communicating by means of odors in the species-specific substance known as pheromones they secrete. Regardless of the channel used, animals send out messages for a variety of reasons, such as to guide individual organisms of the same species to one another or to help synchronize the behaviors of those who are to breed. In other words, communication enables organisms to maintain certain relationships that are of advantage to them, individually as well as to the species as a whole. Members of any animal species may use several kinds of signaling behavior. The signal familiar to humans are patterns of behavior known as displays. They may take the form of bird songs, croaking among frogs, chirping among crickets, spreading fins or changing color among certain fish, chest, chest, beat, chest beating among gorillas, and so on. Some signal units are cooperative, involving at least two individuals. Others are rather formalized. A male hawfinch touches bills with a female, and during courtship, the male bowerbird builds a chamber or passage decorated with colorful objects that will attract a mate. Some of the unexpected findings in the field of animal communication have stimulated continued research. Communication among social insects. Social insects include certain species of bees and wasps and all ants and termites. Among the many species of social insects, The temperate zone honeybee, Apis mellifera, is genetically endowed with fairly elaborate communicative behavior. For our understanding of the so-called bee dance language, we are especially in debt to the Austrian zoologist Karl von Frisch, who spent many years doing painstaking research on the subject and shared with two other scholars the 1973 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine. The most interesting aspect of the common communicative behavior of honeybees has to do with foraging for food as seen in figure 6.1. The beehive is located at the center with three sources of nectar, A, B, and C, appearing in various directions from the hive. The three tail wagging dance diagram at bottom right shows how the direction of the food source from the hive is communicated, using the sun as a point of reference. Insects are commonly considered to be among the lower organisms of the animal kingdom, but their communicative behavior, especially that of the social insects, is highly specialized and efficient. Communication among non-human primates and other vertebrates. The amount of research concerning communicative behavior of vertebrates other than humans has been considerable. Only a few representative examples can be given here in brief and general terms. Of the several channels by means of which birds communicate, the vocal channel is best known to humans. Birds' vocalizations are of two major classes, songs and calls. Consisting of several subparts, bird songs are typically sung only by males and are longer and more complex than calls. Their two main functions are to establish and hold territory by repelling other males and to attract females during breeding season. Depending on the species, bird songs are either innate, learned, or in part innate and in part learned. The learning ability of many species of birds is at its maximum during the individual's first few months of life, but birds learn only the song characteristics of their own species. Bird calls, in contrast, are short, single notes or short sequence of notes, and are used to signal alarm, feeding, distress, imminent takeoff or landing, and the like. For the most part, bird calls are innate, but in some species a degree of learning is involved. Dialectal differences exist, especially in bird songs. Bottlenose dolphins produce clicks, barks, yelps, and moans, as well as whistles and squeals. The function of these different vocalizations is not fully understood. Some appear to express emotional states, others may be used for echolocation and navigation. Humpback whales produce songs consisting of several ordered subparts and lasting as long as half an hour. All whales in particular areas sing the same song, although over the time, these songs may be somewhat modified. Song sessions of whale groups are known to have lasted several hours. The greatest amount of research on animal communication since World War II has been devoted to non-human primates, especially the chimpanzees. In the wild, besides the visual and other signals, apes use a variety of vocal sounds, including grunts, pants, barks, whimpers, screams, squeaks, and hoots. Each vocalization is associated with one or several circumstances. The physical similarity between the great apes and humans has long intrigued observers. Suggestions that apes could be taught to speak having been made several centuries ago. Of the various experiments to teach chimpanzees to talk, the best documented was the one begun by Kit J. Hayes and Catherine Hayes in the late 1940s. They adopted a newborn female chimpanzee and named her Vicky, and brought her up in their home as if she were a human child. Despite all of their efforts to teach Vicky how to speak, after 6 years, Vicky had learned to approximate only four words: Mama, Papa, Cup, and Up, and poorly at that. It appears from the disappointing results of these and similar experiments in home-raising chimpanzees that the ability to speak is unique to humans and that the principal channel of communication for apes is the optical one. Postures, facial expressions, and gestures. When does a communication system become language? The question, when did language originate, is altogether too vague unless one first specifies what is meant by the term language. If language stands for a set of discrete vocal sounds, meaningless by themselves, that can be strung together to produce higher order units, words endowed with conventional but arbitrary meanings, and further, If such a system makes it possible for its users to generate an unlimited number of unprecedented comments about events removed in time as well as space, then most of the several million years of hominid existence would have been languageless. Judging from what is now known about the behavior of the great apes in the wild, the communication system of the earliest hominids likely employed signals that were both visual and acoustic, or auditory, as well as olfactory, connected with the sense of smell, and the tactile, especially grooming. The visual signs or gestures would have been made by various parts of the body, including the face. The auditory signals no doubt consisted of a variety of vocalizations, grunts, roars, barks, moans, hoots, howls, and the like, but also of such non-vocal sounds as chest beating or ground stamping. The overall repertory, however, must have been rather modest, with the signals employed only when the stimuli that provoked them were present. The significance or meaning of these signals would have been limited to very basic comments concerning the immediate environment, for example, sudden danger or discovery of food, or the individual's emotional state, such as surprise, distress, assertion of dominance, fear, and the like. It is clear that a vast distance had to be bridged between some such limited means of communication, a mere call system and full-blown language that modern humans have been making use for 1,000 years. One may refer to the communication system that preceded full-fledged language as pre-language. But even this differentiation into language and pre-language is extremely rough because it suggests an evolutionary leap from one stage to the next rather than a long series of countless incremental changes that would have been imperceptible to the evolving hominids as they were occurring. Some anthropologists have attempted to reconstruct the evolution of human communication in some detail. For example, Roger W. Westcott postulated hand-waving and vocal synchronization among the members of a group for the Australopithecines, finger-pointing and vocal limitation for Homo erectus, and manual, signing, and unintelligible speech involving the use of meaningless syllables for the Neanderthals. Writing and fully developed language here reserved for later Homo sapiens. Most anthropologists would probably find this scheme too conservative. Its virtue is in its attempt to correlate the development of two communicative channels, the visual and the acoustic.